I want you to try a little thought experiment right now. Just like imagine your absolute best friend in the world comes over to your place
Okay.
and they look completely depleted, just exhausted. They sit down and confess that they just completely bombed a major presentation at work. They snapped aggressively at their partner this morning, and I mean they skipped their scheduled workout for like the fourth day in a row.
Oof. Yeah, that's a rough day.
Right. So they're sitting in front of you, looking entirely defeated, just waiting for your judgment. What do you actually say to them?
I mean, most of us would instinctively lean in, right?
Yeah.
You'd tell them they are carrying an immense amount of stress right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd say that one bad presentation doesn't just, negate a decade of hard work
Yeah.
and that their nervous system is probably just crying out for a good night's sleep. Like you would offer them perspective and comfort.
You probably pour them a cup of coffee and just tell them to take a breath. Now flip the script. I want you to imagine treating that best friend the exact same way you treat yourself when you make those exact same mistakes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If you spoke to your friend the way your own internal monologue speaks to you, saying things like, you're an idiot, you always fail under pressure, you're lazy, you're permanently falling behind, like, would that friend stick around?
No way. They would walk right out the door. And honestly, they'd be entirely justified in doing so. I mean, nobody tolerates that level of abuse from a peer.
Right. And yet we sit with that highly critical, punishing internal voice every single day.
We really do.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at some incredibly poignant insights from a piece called The Inner Compass, Finding Grace and Gratitude in Imperfection.
It's such a good source text.
It really is. And our mission today is to unpack a profoundly simple, yet honestly infuriatingly challenging concept from this source material. We're looking at the massive tension between the grace we so effortlessly offer to others and the grace we stubbornly, completely deny ourselves.
Yeah, because in a world defined by uh, information overload and this just relentless, pervasive pressure to constantly optimize every waking second of our existence.
It's exhausting.
It is. So we are going to use this time to just create a little cognitive space. We're going to examine how combining self-grace with a very specific tactical application of daily gratitude might actually be the ultimate overlooked biological and psychological recipe for genuine personal growth.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because before we can even begin to understand how grace somehow magically leads to growth, we have to look at what grace actually is
Yeah.
and why our default human setting seems to be to like only export it and never ever import it. When we hear the word grace, we almost universally think of external relationships,
Yeah, like being patient with a frustrated coworker.
Exactly. Or forgiving a friend who ghosted us or extending a deadline for someone who's struggling. We generally view grace as a relational virtue.
We do. And the real friction happens when we try to turn that virtue inward. I mean, we will instantly forgive a friend for dropping the ball, completely understanding their complex circumstances. But when we drop the ball, it's a completely different story. We replay our own mistakes on a relentless loop at 2 in the morning.
The 2 a.m. replay. The worst.
What's fascinating here is the psychological asymmetry of our compassion. We've internalized this bizarre logic that offering grace to others makes us a benevolent, good person,
Yeah.
but denying it to ourselves makes us a disciplined, high-achieving person. We weaponize self-flagellation because, we think it's a productivity tool.
But wait, let me just push back on that for a second because I can hear the listener thinking exactly what I'm thinking.
Okay, let's hear it.
Doesn't the sting of guilt provide the necessary friction to ensure we don't make the same mistake twice? Like if we remove the sting, if we just say, oh, well, I'm only human, every time we drop the ball, don't we lose the lesson?
That's the fear, right?
Yeah. If I don't hold my own feet to the fire, who will? I mean, isn't grace just a dressed up word for letting yourself off the hook and slipping into complacency?
That is the ultimate fear of the high achiever, isn't it? Like if I put down the whip, I'll stop running.
Exactly.
But we have to look at the actual neuroscience of what happens when you hold your own feet to the fire. Shame and guilt are terrible, maladaptive, long-term motivators.
Really?
Yes. When you aggressively berate yourself for a mistake, your brain perceives a threat. It literally triggers the amygdala, initiating a biological fight or flight response. Your body just floods with cortisol.
Wow. Okay.
And here is the critical part. When the amygdala is hijacked by shame, The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logical thinking, problem solving, and learning, literally powers down.
Wait, really? It shuts down.
It completely shuts down.
So by beating myself up to quote-unquote learn a lesson, I am biologically shutting down the only part of my brain capable of actually learning the lesson.
Precisely the opposite of what you intended to achieve. You are trapping yourself in survival mode. Grace, on the other hand, down-regulates the nervous system.
Interesting.
Offering yourself grace doesn't mean lowering your standards or abandoning accountability. It means removing the neurological threat of shame. When you say, I made a mistake because I am a human being navigating a complex environment, you signal safety to your brain.
And then the prefrontal cortex comes back online.
Exactly. And then you can objectively analyze the failure. Grace isn't permission to stop trying. It's the biological prerequisite for objective self-reflection.
Wow, that reframes the entire concept for me. Guilt isn't holding me accountable. It's just blinding me with stress hormones.
Yeah, it's punishing the system instead of debugging the code.
Which naturally leads to the next big question. If grace is just giving our brain the safety it needs to function properly, why do we feel so incredibly guilty about practicing it?
Oh, that's a great question.
Our source material points a massive finger at the cultural water we're swimming in. Like, we are steeped in a culture of relentless productivity that demands we do more, be more, and achieve more at all times.
Oh, the environmental pressure cannot be overstated. We are constantly absorbing the message that our worth is entirely tethered to our output.
Oh, 100%. You're supposed to optimize your morning routine, monetize your hobbies, biohack your sleep.
Or read 50 books a year.
Yes, and curate a flawless digital presence. This toxic demand for endless productivity creates a scenario where resting, or pausing to offer yourself grace, literally feels like a moral failure. It feels like you're losing ground in a race you didn't even realize you signed up for.
Yeah, it really does.
I used to think of modern life as a treadmill, but that's almost too simple. I think it's more like your brain is a smartphone, and society keeps installing new, heavy background apps without your permission.
Oh, I like that.
Right. You've got the career optimization app running, the perfect parent app, the fitness influencer app, the political awareness app.
So many apps.
And they're all running simultaneously in the background, constantly pulling data, draining your cognitive battery, and making your internal system run dangerously hot. We wonder why we're exhausted when our screen time is low, but like our internal RAM is completely maxed out.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize cognitive load. Because what happens when a device runs too many heavy processes for too long?
It crashes.
Exactly. The battery dies, or the hardware physically overheats and degrades. In human terms, that system failure is burnout.
Yeah, and burnout is serious.
It isn't just being tired after a long day. Burnout is a state of systemic emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged, unresolved stress. Grace is the mechanism that force closes those background apps.
It's the moment you say, I do not have the RAM for this right now, and I am shutting this process down.
It's a necessary, active cognitive reset. Grace establishes a non-negotiable boundary against burnout. By having the courage to actively declare what I accomplished today is enough, you neutralize that toxic demand for endless output.
You stop the battery drain.
Yes. It is an act of reclaiming your own cognitive resources from a culture that wants to mine them indefinitely.
It really is an act of rebellion when you put it like that. But let's look at the mechanics of that reset.
Yeah.
Let's say we manage to do it. We use grace to force close the apps. We quiet the system. What do we actually do in that newly created space?
Right.
Because if I know my own brain, if I clear that RAM, my default programming is going to immediately boot up a new app called Guilt About Not Being Productive.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nature abhors a vacuum.
Exactly. And this is where the source material introduces an incredibly specific tactical maneuver, pairing grace with gratitude.
The pairing is essential. If you just clear the cognitive space and don't intentionally fill it, your brain's default negativity bias will just flood that space with anxiety about what you aren't doing.
Right.
Gratitude is how you secure the space that grace created. It fundamentally shifts your internal focus and interrupts the chemical loop of stress. I mean, at the end of a long day, the default human thought is almost always to scan for deficits.
Oh, for sure. We look at the to-do list and focus exclusively on the items we didn't cross off.
Exactly. But gratitude forcefully redirects the mind's attention.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the everyday examples we're looking at aren't about profound, life-altering gratitude. It's not about being thankful for world peace or the cosmos.
No.
The power is in micro moments, It's selectively focusing your attention on the fact that you, say, skipped a workout because you listened to your body's exhaustion, and you were grateful for that self-awareness.
Yeah.
Or realizing you snapped at your partner, but instead of spiraling to self-loathing, you were grateful that you caught yourself quickly and can apologize immediately.
You are intentionally retraining your brain's reticular activating system.
But what?
The reticular activating system. Your brain filters millions of bits of information every second based on what you tell it is important. If you tell your brain that your failures are the most important thing, it will diligently highlight every single failure for you.
Oh, wow. So you get exactly what you search for.
Yes. When you practice tactical gratitude in these micro moments, you force your brain to scan your environment for a positive variable.
You are literally changing the search parameters of your own brain.
You are. And the result is profoundly chemical. Finding that positive variable, however small, provides a micro hit of dopamine. It replaces the cortisol of shame with the biological motivation to take the next step.
That's amazing.
And the source material highlights one specific reframe that I think is just vital for high achievers. It suggests changing your end-of-day question from, what did I achieve today, to what did I get through today?
That is a massive paradigm shift. Because on a Tuesday when everything goes wrong, the achievement metric is 0. But the survival metric might be off the charts.
This raises an important question for you listening right now. How often do you discount your own survival, your own endurance, or your emotional regulation on a profoundly difficult day simply because it didn't look, quote-unquote, productive by society's standards?
Oh, all the time.
Surviving a day where your anxiety was spiking, where external pressures were heavy, or where everything just broke down, that requires an immense amount of psychological resilience. Acknowledging that resilience is a highly effective form of gratitude.
We completely ignore the energy it takes just to hold the line, don't we?
We really do.
If it doesn't look like an aesthetically pleasing social media post of a morning routine, we count the day as a total loss. But if we reframe it, if we look at a chaotic day and say, I didn't finish the project, but I navigated 4 separate crises without losing my temper, and I'm grateful for my own resilience, that doesn't just change how the day feels, it completely changes the narrative of who we are.
It changes the narrative, and more importantly, it changes your trajectory.
Right.
Reframing these small, imperfect moments isn't about slapping a toxic positivity sticker over a real problem. The argument here is that this specific intersection, where the safety of grace meets the dopamine-driven focus of gratitude, is the exact specific environment where sustainable personal growth occurs.
Let's really dig into the mechanics of that, because the word growth is thrown around constantly in self-improvement spaces, often without any real definition.
Very true.
How exactly does letting myself off the hook for a bad day and finding one tiny thing to be grateful for actually cause growth? The text implies that without these two things, we are stuck in guilt, but with them, we move forward with awareness.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the fundamental difference between how guilt and awareness operate within the human psyche.
Okay.
Guilt, by its very nature, is a paralyzing backward-looking force. When you are consumed by guilt over a misstep, your cognitive energy is entirely anchored to the past.
You're just stuck in a mental loop.
Exactly. Reliving a moment that has already expired, you cannot alter the past, so your energy is being spinning your wheels. You are generating a lot of heat and friction, but you have zero forward momentum.
It's the ultimate trap. You feel like you're doing something because you're suffering, but you aren't actually moving.
Suffering is not progress. Now observe what happens when you introduce the protocol of grace and gratitude. Grace acts as the blade that cuts the anchor to the past.
Oh, I love that imagery.
It says, the mistake happened. The data has been collected. You are human. You are forgiven. Suddenly, the massive cognitive weight of the past is lifted. You are free to move.
But freedom without direction is just wandering.
Exactly. That is where gratitude steps in as the navigational system.
So gratitude points the ship.
Gratitude provides the forward momentum fueled by awareness. Instead of the guilt loop saying, I am a failure for how I handled that meeting, the awareness loop says, I am human, I was underprepared, and I panicked. That is grace.
Right.
I am grateful that I now clearly see the gap in my preparation, and I am aware of how my body feels when I panic, so tomorrow I can prepare differently. That is gratitude and awareness working together.
Wow. You've extracted the data from the failure without absorbing the emotional poison of the failure. So what does this all mean for us on a practical level? It means that real, measurable growth isn't about perfectly executing your day from start to finish. We need to completely abandon that metric.
Yes, completely.
Real growth is entirely determined by how gently and quickly you pivot when the day inevitably goes completely off script. It's the speed at which you can transition from the friction of beating yourself up to the forward momentum of figuring out the next right step.
The speed of the pivot is the ultimate metric of resilience. Guilt forces you to hide from your mistakes, to bury them in shame, which ensures you will repeat them.
Right.
Awareness, created by grace, allows you to put the mistake on the table under a bright light, examine it objectively, learn its mechanics, and step forward into the next moment as a slightly wiser, more adaptable person.
That is the biological and psychological definition of growth.
And it is mechanically impossible to achieve without first offering yourself the safety of grace.
This has been such a vital deconstruction of a concept that sounds like, I don't know, soft, fuzzy self-help on the surface,
Yeah,
but is actually a highly tactical approach to cognitive health.
it really is.
We've covered a lot of deep psychological ground today, pulling apart these concepts from the inner compass. We've looked at the dangerous asymmetry of our compassion, how high achievers weaponize guilt, thinking it's a tool for discipline, when in reality, it triggers an amygdala hijack that shuts down our ability to learn.
And we examined how extending grace to yourself is an active, necessary boundary. It is the deliberate force closing of the heavy background apps installed by a relentless do-more culture, protecting your system from the inevitable hardware failure of burnout.
And we saw how securing that cleared space with tactful gratitude, shifting our focus from the deficits of what we didn't achieve to the resilience of what we actually managed to get through, transforms paralyzing, backward-looking guilt into forward-moving, data-driven awareness.
Yes.
That is where the actual mechanics of personal growth operate. So here's the core mission for you listening right now as you transition back into the reality of your day. Give yourself the exact same grace you naturally give the people around you. You are navigating a complex world, and you are doing better than your internal critic tells you. You really are.
The immediate application is beautifully simple. Find one moment from your day today, even a microscopic, seemingly insignificant one, that you can direct your attention toward with gratitude.
Just one moment.
A moment of quiet, a minor problem you navigated without losing your cool, or just the fact that you absorbed the stress of a tough afternoon and are still standing. Remember that just being human with all its chaotic, messy imperfections is a baseline that is entirely enough.
Before we wrap up, think back to that scenario we started with. That best friend sitting in front of you on your couch, waiting for your response. The friend you effortlessly offered comfort, perspective, and a safe place to recalibrate. Tomorrow morning, when you inevitably drop a ball or things don't go exactly to plan, try bypassing the criticism and simply being that friend to yourself.
And if the idea of giving yourself that kind of unconditional grace right now still feels incredibly uncomfortable, or if a voice in your head is still whispering that grace is just an excuse for being lazy.
Which it isn't.
No, it isn't. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over. If treating yourself with basic human dignity feels like a violation of the rules, what does that discomfort actually tell you about whose expectations you are living for your own or the world's?